suddenly you could see data that how level of corruption suddenly peaked. The level of nepotism peaked from 2003 until now. The suicide bombing went up. Insecurity is just way up there right now. I mean, in the middle of Kabul, the securest place in entire Afghanistan, near the airport, was a suicide bombing last night. It's mind-blowing that how suddenly everything changed. And that happened, the security just went bad. And until now, it has been getting worse and worse day by day. It's not getting better. And lately, I don't know if you guys have been reading news, lately, yesterday there was a news that NATO troops, the ISAF, has decided to not go in combats with Afghan troops anymore and let them to do themselves, the combat. There's a problem with that, because when the US embassy was attacked 2 months ago inside Kabul, Afghans could not move a meter forward. They were going backwards. They could not attack them until the ISAF came, the NATO troops came, and they defeated 4 Taliban. They killed 4 Taliban. The Afghan troops are not skilled enough to do such a thing by themselves. And that's an example. And they're not well trained, they're not well educated. We have around 130,000 troops, and I am guaranteeing you that over 110,000 of them are uneducated and untrained. They're not trained well. And lately there is also news that there is something called green on blue firing, that the members of Afghan police is firing at their trainers. And these are the people that are actually members of Taliban. And then they just join the army to get well trained, and they pick up the gun, shoot, run, go back to their base, their village, and then they start training their own people. So they're getting advantage of being trained too. And I was talking with my dad the other night. Actually, my dad is working for the Ministry of Defense. I was talking with him and said, how do you solve this problem? He said the only way that you can solve this problem is to do a background check in every single person who's coming and joining the military, get a guarantee from generals and other soldiers in the military that this guy is not going to do anything bad. So get a guarantee, get somebody to warranty that they're going to be okay. And that's the problem that you can solve there. But now what I'm trying to argue is here that right now the situation in Afghanistan is the same as it was in 1989. The level of corruption is really high, insecurity is really high, nepotism. Speaking of nepotism, last fall I was in Washington, D.C. working with the embassy. It's a story that I'm going to tell you. So I was sitting in a room with the ambassador and all these other people. We were talking about because our Independence Day was coming up, so we're talking about it, that what kind of preparation do we have to, blah, blah, blah. And we had an economic advisor to the ambassador. And the economic advisor said, hey, by the way, I just want to mention this. We spend over $10,000 in our garden at the embassy, but there is no change on it. There's nothing, we haven't done anything. And there was a gardener sitting there. And the gardener was like, what do you mean? I stole the money? He was like, well, then if you haven't used it, then yes, you have stolen. What happened? The gardener just walked to this advisor, a diplomat, slapped him and started punching him inside the embassy. That's my embassy. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk out of this because I don't want to be beaten up by a gardener. I walked out. Next morning I came, I saw the advisor with a bruise in his face. I said, wow, I bet that the gardener is gone. So I asked my boss, who was the head of PR, I said, what happened? I was like, what happened to the gardener? Is he gone home? He's like, no, the advisor apologized. The diplomat apologized to gardener. I was like, that doesn't make sense. He said, of course it doesn't, because the gardener is nephew of Karzai, my president. He could not fire him just because they knew each other. Anyways, and then months later when I was back, actually the ambassador was beaten up by someone else, and the ambassador apologized publicly to the other guy. I don't know. This is, that the embassy is full of the people who is my president or someone else in the government. That's the nepotism part. The level of corruption is really high too. If you've been focusing on what's going on in the news, our Minister of Finance was asked by Parliament to leave because the level of corruption is really high. When he came into office, there's some people, what they did a couple months ago, they hacked in his computer and they tried to find his bank statement. They picked up his bank statement. When he came to office in 2008, he had $500,000 in his bank account. Right now, he has $4 million. And people ask him. It was in the news. It got out in the news in one of the news agencies, and they said we were asking him, and they called him in live on TV during the news without telling him that they are calling him because he wouldn't have answered. They called him and they asked him that they have got this news, breaking news. Does he know about it? He was like, "Oh, we should have a real interview. I don't want to talk over the phone." And everyone was like, "Okay, he's gonna give an interview. And he's gonna get an answer." Next morning, there were rumors that that anchor that called him, he got a call after the news. They said if next time I hear you saying something like that, you'll be gone. And it's kind of obvious the minister did that, somebody who's related to the minister. And you can see like how corrupt it is right now, Afghanistan. And the other thing is like, that really, really upset me is right now, there are foreign people working in Afghanistan. By that I mean they're dual citizens working in Afghanistan. So for them, they don't have to take their job serious enough, because when the Afghanistan falls, they can go to their other home and sit there. I'm going to just give you an example. At the embassy, we had 35 staff. 30 of them they had dual citizenship. 30 people with dual citizenship working for Afghanistan. So anything that happens in Afghanistan, they can just leave. They don't have responsibility. They don't have any incentives to stay there and work hard and make sure that things are being done. So I think this is my prediction what's going to happen in 2014 if the United States pulls out. Afghanistan is in this horrible situation right now. The moment that the United States pulls out, what's going to happen is probably Karzai will survive one more year. International community will not pay any attention to what they did during 1992 when Kabul fell into Mujahideen's hand, in 1989 when Soviet collapsed. When Soviet collapsed, the United States said, "Hey, you know what? We defeated Marxists, we defeated communists, we're going home, our job is done." But no, Afghanistan was burning down. And like they didn't spend $5 more million to build a hospital or build a school to educate those people. They just put so much money, millions and billions of money in hands of Mujahideen to create destruction, but there was not enough money to build back up. And I think that's what's going to happen now. And the United States is going to pull out. Right now, 2/3 of Americans are saying that this war is not popular, which I don't understand. I think I'm going to go on that later. But United States is going to pull out. International community is not going to pay enough attention to it, and Afghanistan is going to collapse, and it's going to go to another civil war. And that's my theory, and I really hope I will be wrong. This is one of the times in my life that I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong, and I really don't want this to happen to Afghanistan. And that's what's going to happen to Afghanistan, I think. And the reason that I think that's going to happen is that, I'm going to give you an analogy. I was giving it to one of my friends yesterday, that think of Afghanistan as a hand grenade, and think of the American troops as a pin, the pin of hand grenade. The moment that you pull it out, it's a matter of time when it's going to blow up. That's Afghanistan. And I really hope I made myself clear. And that's all.